I need to do better. Like, I just need to do a better job. We're going to talk about Surging Sparks today. What's going on, Fan Clan? Happy Sunday. I hope you guys have had a really, really good weekend. I hope you found some killer deals. There's been some really good deals going on out there. Obviously, Walmart tins and things at Target and other deals, TikTok deals, things like that. And they should continue up until, tomorrow, Cyber Monday. And they should continue pretty much all holiday season. So make sure to keep letting me know in the comments section down below what you have all found. But I need to do better. I've been doing this for a while now, and I'm still not great at it. I'm not great at YouTube. I'm not great at talking. Like, I'm awkward. I am very awkward. If you've ever met me in person, which a lot of you have, you know that I'm kind of socially awkward. I'm not great in front of the camera. I'm just a nerd. I'm just a very big nerd like you. But I'm not here to sell you anything. I legitimately I'm not. And I know that that's something that a lot of people say, and a lot of storefronts say, and then all of a sudden you have people scalping things left and right, and they're like, well, if you can't beat the bots, join them, and things. That's not me. Like, I don't care about the money side of things. Like, my main goal is to make sure that you get the best deal possible, or it might not be for me, and that's okay. And if I haven't made that clear, then I need to do better. I'm not doing a good enough job. I know my titles aren't always great, and they may spark some clickbait and FOMO and things like that, and I promise you that is not my intention. And I know most of you understand that. And if you've been watching the channel for a long time, you give me a little bit of leeway, and I appreciate that, because you're like, well, Fanny's just not really good at this. He's not good at editing. He's not good at like all that stuff. I know this is a weird rant, and I'll talk more about it later in the week, especially as we get closer to the release of Prismatic Evolutions. And this is going to be a big week for Prismatic Evolutions. But as we get closer and closer to the release, the hype is going to slowly start subsiding for Surging Sparks. And I talked about Surging Sparks a couple days ago, but I didn't do a good job. I didn't do a good job with the title or the thumbnail. And a few people kind of called me out on it, and it was warranted. Like, I get it. I understand. I have to do better then. Like, if I am sparking FOMO and inciting FOMO and telling you that you need to go buy boxes now because there is no reprint, then I am not doing a good enough job of communicating, or not doing a good enough job of coming up with clever and catchy titles and thumbnails that don't incite FOMO, but still draw you to my. Maybe there's people better than it out there at me who can help me. Like, I'm just not very good at it. But we're going to talk about Surging Sparks, because I genuinely do not think you should be buying or opening Surging Sparks right now. There are so many good deals on singles out there, and we're going to talk about that in today's video, but I'm going to do a much better job of talking about it. So I'm going to flip you guys around so you can see exactly what I'm talking about. We're going to start out just by looking at TCGPlayer. This is a very interesting site to look at right now, because there's a lot of chatter about this. There is a lot of chatter about the increased prices for booster box. We have over $200 for a market price, right? That's up to $205 currently. That's actually down a little bit from when I was looking at this yesterday. Pikachu EX, the Special Illustration Rare went down, and now it's gone up a little bit to $483.24. The Latias has really gone up to $261.82. The big one is this Milotic. A lot of people are talking about the Milotic has jumped up to $146.07. The Pikachu EX is up to $144.68. Even the Latios is up a little bit to $44.91. And if you watch the video that I put out a couple days ago, I warned you. I really don't pay attention to whatever you see on TCGPlayer right now for the next few days, really, especially because there is going to be a bit of a false market being set right now because of the cyber deals that they have going on right now. So TCGPlayer, this happens every year. TCGPlayer offers 10% store credit to anybody who shops on their platform. So you get 10% store credit. So if you buy this Pikachu EX for $483.24, you get $48 in store credit that you can then spend on TCGPlayer. If you're a subscriber to TCGPlayer, you get like 13%, depending on how long you have been a subscriber for. So that's even more store credit that you get. So that brings that cost of that Pikachu down to like $440, or even lower than that, depending on how long you've been a subscriber. That Latias EX, that brings that price down to like $230 right now, or even lower than that, depending on how long you've been a subscriber. So because of that, some collectors are going to be willing to spend a little bit more because they know they're going to be getting 10% cash back. Also, a lot of people are screaming manipulation, things like that on like the Milotic EX, and a lot of people are saying, no, it's just demand. It's just demand for that card. Why not both? Like, right? Why not? Why can't it be both? Like, there's people who are going to target that card, and there's also people who just genuinely want that card. That's going to be a mix of what's going on, especially this weekend with the 10% and 13% cash back or store credit option options that TCGPlayer is providing. When you buy a booster box of Surging Sparks at $200, it's actually only $180 or lower than that if you are a subscriber. So that's what's going through the mindset of a lot of people right now. And if they see only 16 listings or only 7 listings or something like that, part of that is going to be because the demand of the card got bought out so much for that 10%, 13% deal that all of a sudden people started listing things, and then market price established a little bit higher and a little bit higher. This is going to come back down to earth. This is going to come back down to normal. Surging Sparks is going to get reprinted. Don't worry about it right now, especially with all the hype that's going to be paid to Prismatic Evolutions, to the Partner set in March, to the Team Rocket set in May, and to the Black and White 151 set, whatever you want to call it, that's coming out apparently in June. Surging Sparks is going to get reprinted, and then it is going to drop in price. It may not go down to $110 a booster box. Yeah, it might not. It's going to come down below MSRP. I guarantee it. It's going to happen. With that being said, I do want to look at pull rates. I think this is going to tell the story of whether or not you should be opening up your Surging Sparks booster box, because you should not. And this is going to show you exactly why right here. So we've got pull rate data based off of like 2,000 packs of Surging Sparks, which will tell you what to expect out of your Surging Sparks booster box. You may have a Surging Sparks booster box right there. And yeah, if you open it up and it's got that SIR Pikachu in it, it's worth it. If it's got that SIR Latias in it, it's worth it. If it doesn't, it's not worth it. And you have to open up 10 boxes basically to be guaranteed one of those two, because pull rates are a little bit tougher, right? They're tougher than what they were in Scarlet and Violet Base, in Obsidian Flames, and Paldea Evolved, even in Paradox Rift. So I understand it might be worth the gamble to you, but you need to understand what you're getting into, right? It's 1 out of 65 for a pull rate of Special Illustration Rares. That means it's going to take you about 65 packs or 2 booster boxes to open up one Special Illustration Rare. Now there's 11 different Special Illustration Rares in the set. That means it's going to take you over 700 packs to pull one of them. That's 20 booster boxes worth of stuff, 20 booster boxes worth of packs in order to pull a specific individual like the Pikachu EX. If you're looking for one of those two, you cut that in half. That means you're looking at 10 booster boxes minimum to open up one of those two. And that's not even including variants or things like that, or if you believe in batching, anything like that. So what we like to do is we like to look at pull rate breakdown to understand how much each card of that specific rarity is worth. And that will give you a good understanding of what you can expect to pull out of your booster box based off of average value. So right now, Surging Sparks not doing terribly as far as singles go, but because the sealed product is so expensive, it makes it very hard to retain the value once you open up the booster box. Now, you should never expect to open up a booster box and get the value back on it. It's just something I get asked that question all the time. Can't I just open up a booster box and sell the singles inside? It honestly does not matter how cheap a booster box is. Even if you paid, let's say you paid $90 for a Surging Sparks booster box. Yeah, then it's probably going to be worth it. Then you might be able to, but once you factor in shipping costs and fees and things like that, it's probably still not going to be worth it to open it up. The only time it is ever worth it to open up a booster box is if you're getting product like 2 weeks early as a storefront and you are selling pre-order singles. Otherwise, for the most part, even then, it's probably going to be a loss. It was for Surging Sparks, because of the market price of Surging Sparks booster boxes, it was better just to sell it sealed. But we're going to look at basically each rarity breakdown so you can get a good understanding of what average value you're expected to pull out of your booster box. And if you look at the double rares right here, there is really nothing right now in Surging Sparks that is doing super well competitively. So we just had a regional event that finished up this morning, and the final match was a mirror match between Charizard EX and Pidgeot EX. Both players, Charizard EX and Pidgeot EX. Now, last week, we had Pikachu EX do fairly well, like Miraidon EX did very well. But other than that, like Ceruledge has done okay, and that's why it's selling for $5.13. And Pikachu EX is doing okay, and that's why it's selling for $8.47. Outside of that, everything is basically bulk pricing, with a lot of them lower than that. I just put $2 as the minimum, giving it a little grace period here. $2 is the minimum cheapest price, even though you can find a lot of EXs for below $1. If you look at the average values, you have Latias EX, which is a little bit above bulk. That's selling for $2.57 right now. The Hydreigon EX, which does have some potential as far as competitive play, and because of that, it's doing fairly decent right now as far as value goes, $3.30. Everything else is bulk pricing, with not including that Pikachu Pikachu, which is $8.47, and that Cerulege, which is $5.13. So you're going to pull about 6 of these out of your booster box, but the majority of them are just going to have bulk values associated with them, and that makes it very tough. If we go over here to the full arts right here, kind of the same thing, right? Like you have a lot of $2 cards. That Durant EX right now is only selling for $2. Same thing with the Scovillain. Milotic EX full art is a little bit above $2, but only at $2.40. And the reason behind this is because there is just so much supply on the secondary market. There's been so much Surging Sparks that has been opened, and because of that, the sealed product continues to rise, but the singles continue to drop because there's more and more singles that are on the open market. The Black Hiram EX, $3.17 for that full art. The Pikachu X is the only one that's really worth a decent chunk of value, and that's really because of collectability combined with a little bit of playability. $29.62 on that one. The Latias EX full art is down to $5.39. Palisand is a bulk. Ultra Rare Flygon is at $3.72. Hydreigon, a little bit of a mix, right? Because it is a cool card, cool looking card, but also has some potential as far as competitive play goes. $7.53. You have $2.73 on the Archaludon, $3.17 on that full art Terra Alolan Executor. Everything else, look at this. Tatsuguri is bulk, Slacking is bulk, Cyclizar is bulk, Clemot's Quick Wit, that's a bulk card, Cyrano is bulk, full art Drasna, full art Drayton, and the full art Surfer, all basically $2 or less. Some of these cards, like the Surfer, I think is selling for like $1.13 right now. You have the full art Jasmine's Gaze, which is all the way down to $2.66. And the full art Latias Appeal is down to $6.75. As more and more product gets open, these prices are going to continue to fall. And when more and more product hits the market, these prices are going to continue to fall. So seeing a lot of options out here of full arts, like you only pull a couple of them in your booster box. So even if you've opened up a few booster boxes, I guarantee you there's some of these bulk EXs, some of these bulk full arts, which are going to take you a little bit more packs to pull that you can have for basically bulk pricing. You can probably fill up a cart for a decent price point to really start hammering out some of your master set. If we look at A-Specs, you don't have anything in Surging Sparks that's really pushing the needle as far as value goes, like what we saw with Prime Catcher and even Unfair Stamp at one point in time. Everything is basically under $3, with the majority of them being a bulk A-Spec, and I just put the price point on that at $1. So Amulet of Hope is $1, Megaton Blower is $1, Miracle Headset is $1, Scramble Switch and Enriching Energy, all dollar cards. The only ones that are a little bit more expensive are Energy Search Pro and Precious Trolley, which are both at $2.24, and then Brilliant Blender, which is the best one in the set as far as competitive play goes. That's $2.90. If we look down at the illustration rares, there's not a whole lot in Surging Sparks like what you've seen in the past. So like Stellar Crown, a much smaller set, but has 2 illustration rares which are really, really popular in that Squirtle and that Bulbasaur. Paldea Evolved, a really popular set with all of its illustration rares. You have big ones like the Magikarp, obviously, which is over $100. The Tyranitar, which is expensive. The Raichu is expensive. Even sets like Paradox Rift with the Groudon and the Steelix. This one really only has the Latios. The Latios selling for $44.45. Everything else is under $20. The Cerulege, you can make an argument of that. That one's doing fairly well, but everything else is relatively inexpensive. So you have the Execute at $4.60, Vivillin at $2.57, Shiinotic at $2.18, $6.76 for the Cast Form, Sunny Form. The Larvesta is at $2, like that's below $2 for an illustration rare at $1.62. The Cerulege, the second most expensive illustration rare in the set, is at $17.36. You have the Phoebus at $6.94, the Spheal at $5.18, the Bruxish at $1.53, the Cetitan at $2 and a penny. Stunfisk, the cheapest out of all of them, is at $1.13. Latios at $44.45. The Mesprit has been very strong ever since release, stayed really flat. It's at $6.95. The Phampe's at $5.18. The Vibrava is also below $2 at $1.84. Clobbopus is at $3.61. Alolan Dugtrio at $4.83. So a lot of cards that are below $5. The Skarmory at $11.55. Flapple's at $2.54. Appleton's at $3.85. Slackoth's at $5.33. Kecleon at $4.76. And Braviary at $3.38. So very, very cheap illustration rares across the board. And you do get basically 3 of these per booster box, which really brings that average value of your booster box down because there's not a whole lot of value behind the illustration rares. If we look at the special illustration rares, this is turning into really what looks like Evolving Skies, where you have a few that really bring up that gambling potential, that gambling idea for a lot of people, and that's why people want to crack that booster box of Evolving Skies. But for the most part, if you break it down, there's a lot of them that are relatively inexpensive as well. So you have as good of a chance of pulling that Special Illustration Rare Pikachu EX as you do of pulling that Clement or that Drayton. So a lot of this is something you really just need to remember when you're opening up product or opening up booster boxes. The Durant is selling for $28.04, which isn't bad. That's actually up quite a bit from where it released. Milotic has jumped up quite a bit, $143.75. Again, part of that is because of that false market that we were talking about. I do believe that it is going to come down a little bit. Pikachu EX is up to $470. We just saw it a little bit higher than that. The Latias EX is up to $266.41. You've got $80.81 on the Hydreigon, but the other Special Illustrators have not seen that much movement this weekend. So Hydreigon at $80.81, Archaludon at $24.29. The Alolan Executor is at $52.42. Clement's Quick Wit is at $15.66. Drayton's at $15.86. Jasmine's Gaze is at $40.89. And then Lucia's Appeal at $64.11. If we look at the Hyper Rare, the only one that's really making a lot of noise is that Pikachu EX. And that is because it is so low as far as quantity goes. Now, Hyper Rares are very difficult to pull, much more difficult than what we saw from the Special Illustration Rares as far as pull rate data goes. So the Pikachu EX, we saw just looking at that slide before, obviously, or the TCGPlayer website, Pikachu EX even up higher. That's at $144.68 right now. We have it at $121.61. That's when I looked at this market price as of yesterday. So yesterday, 24 hours ago, it's already jumped up over $20. But that's partly because there's so limited supply on there. So when more supply gets put on there, it gets pumped up a little bit more. And then if somebody buys it, a new market price gets established. So $121.61 on that. Alolan Executor EX, that gold card is $20.98. The gold counter gain, $8.77. The Gravity Mountain is at $11.65. Night Stretcher at $27.98. Obviously a very competitive card, so that one's going to be strong for a while. And then Jet Energy at $13.79. Well, what does this all mean, Fanny? How do we break this down? So in total, we opened up 2,232 packs of Surging Sparks, 62 booster boxes. On average, you're going to pull 14 Ultra Rares or 14 of those hits per booster box. We're really strong, right? Like if you go back to Evolving Skies, Fusion Strike, Chilling Reign, sets like that where you only got 7, this is double that. So double the amount of pull rates that we got in the original Sword and Shield sets, which is very, very strong. However, the average value is so much lower that it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to open up some of these booster boxes. If you look at the average double rares, you're going to get 6.16 per booster box. So every 6 packs, you should pull a double rare, one of those regular arts. However, the average price point on those regular arts is $2.64. If you open up your booster box, you're going to pull 6 of them, and you might pull that Pikachu, which is $8, but you're probably also going to pull that Durant. You're probably also going to pull that Scovillain. You're probably also going to pull that Flamigo, and because of that, that brings that average price point down to about $2.64. So that means on average, your booster box is only going to have about $16.27 worth of value, and probably even a little bit lower than that because we rounded up all those EXs, all those bulk EXs up to $2, which is very difficult to sell at that price point. If you look at A-Specs, you get 1.82 per booster box, so about 1 out of every 20 packs, you might open up a booster box and get 2. Very rarely, but it happens when you open up a booster box where you only get 1. Your average price point on those, though, is only $1.55, so you're only looking at about $2.83 worth of value when it comes to the A-Specs. If you look at your Ultra Rares, your Full Arts, you're going to pull 2.42. Now, this does include your Full Art Pokemon and your Full Art Trainers, 1 out of every 15 booster box, or 15 booster packs, so you might get 2 Pokemon and 1 Trainer in your booster box, which would be a strong booster box, but your average price point of it is only $4.24. Yeah, you may pull that Pikachu, but more than likely you're not going to, and you're going to pull 3 of some of the other ones, which is going to average to about $10.26 worth of value out of your booster box of Surging Sparks. If it comes to the Illustration Rares, 1 out of every 12 packs, like clockwork, like what we've seen from every single set so far in Scarlet and Violet, you're going to get 2.94 in your booster box. Your average price point on them, $6.43. This is skewed a little bit because of that Latios being $44. The Cerulege not going to play that much of an impact on here, but it's an average for a reason. You get 3 of them, so you might pull that Cerulege, but then the other 2 that you might pull is going to be the Stunfisk and the Titan, which is going to bring that average value down quite a bit. You might pull that Latios, but then the other 2 that you might pull could be, you know, the Stunfisk and the Flapple, or the Vibrava and the Flapple. It's going to bring that price point down quite a bit. So your average value per booster box is $18.88 on average. Now your Special Illustration Rares, this is where things get a little bit more expensive because they are skewed by that Latias, by that Milotic, and by that Pikachu. So you're going to pull half. You're going to pull 1 every 2 booster boxes, 1 out of every 66 packs. So 0.55 is your pull rate on that. Your average price point, $109.36. So your booster box may have that Pikachu in it, but more than likely it's going to have that Drayton, it's going to have that Hydreigon, it's going to have 1 of the other 6 or 1 of the other 10, which is fine. Like you could still, it's still fun to open that stuff. But remember, there's a fun cost associated with everything, right? So your average value per booster box, about $59.97. It also could mean that you don't pull anything when it comes to a Special Illustration Rare in your booster box. It's 1 out of every 2 for a reason. You have a 50% chance basically of opening up a booster box and having a Special Illustration Rare in there. If you look at your average hyper rares, it's worse. It's 1 out of every 4 booster boxes. Very rarely will you get a booster box that has 1 hyper rare and 1 Special Illustration Rare. Very tough to do. 1 out of every 140 packs, so 1 out of every 4 booster boxes. Your average price point on those hyper rares, $34.13. Yeah, you may pull that Pikachu, which is $144 right now, but more than likely it could be one of the other ones. It could be that counter gain. It could be that jet energy, which is cool. You still pull the hyper rare, which is only 25% possible in your booster box, but your average price point is $8.81 for a reason. So if you break this down and add all this up, on average, your booster box of Surging Sparks is going to have $117 worth of hits in there. Now, it could have less, and more than likely it will have less, but this is average for a reason. This is if you do pull, let's say you do pull a Special Illustration Rare. Let's say you open up a few boxes. On average, you're going to get about $117 worth of hits out of your Surging Sparks booster boxes. If you look at ancillary value, I was very generous with this. I gave it $10. There's really nothing in Surging Sparks that's not an Ultra that has any value associated with it. You have sets like Shrouded Fable, which have decent cards outside of just Ultra Rares, like Night Stretcher, which sells for over $2. You have that Dusknoir Hollow Rare, which sells for over $1. When it comes to Surging Sparks, everything else is basically just bulk. All your Hollow Rares, all of your Pokemon trainers, everything right now, basically bulk. The best trainer is probably that Terra Orb, and even that's down to about 20 cents per copy right now. So we gave it $10 for code cards and bulk and things like that. That's being a little bit generous, but that brings your total value up to about $127 for your booster box. Right now, a box costs about $206. $205.97 is the going market price for Surging Sparks until it does get reprinted, which will hopefully be in the near future. That means for your fun cost, you're looking at spending about $79. So we associate with fun costs. Obviously, there's a fun cost with doing anything entertainment-wise. You go out to a movie, you have to pay for admission. You go bowling, you have to pay for your bowling games. You go out and do something fun, it's going to cost money. The same should be looked at for Pokemon, because you should never look to make money opening up a box of booster packs of Pokemon cards. It's going to cost money. You're looking at losing about $79 when it comes to opening up your booster box. Your target pack price, so this is your goal price, $3.53. This can be found out there if you look hard enough. So there are collection boxes out there that do have Surging Sparks in it. The Blood Moon Ursa Luna, the Teal Mask Ogerpon, and the Grand Adventure. Those booster boxes all have, or those collection boxes all have 2 packs of Surging Sparks. There's going to be more in the future, more product releases. So if you can find those for like $17, somewhere around there, the Teal Mask Ogerpon going to be very difficult. But if you can find those for around $15, $16, $17, especially if you buy them by the case, you might be able to find a discount on them. Then it's kind of worth it, because you're looking at finding booster packs of Surging Sparks for about $3.53. All we really did was take $127, which is your average value for your booster box, and we divided it by 36, which means your target pack price, $3.53. That's basically meaning, hey, you're going to open this up, and if you open up enough of them, on average, you're going to pull a value equal to your spend, which I think is really important to look at. So hopefully I did a better job of explaining things in this video, and hopefully I come up with a better title that's not too clickbaity or anything like that. But ultimately, I really appreciate you guys. I love you guys. Thank you so much for everything. I promise I will continue to improve and continue to do better. I have a big week ahead. We'll have a video on Tuesday. I might dive into things a little bit more in depth on Thursday about why I do this and things like that. But you can follow along if you want. Hit that subscribe button if you want. Leave a like, leave a comment if you want. I don't expect anything from any of you. I just really appreciate you guys giving me the opportunity. So thanks so much for everything. Love you guys. I'll talk to you soon. Until next time, peace.